but not necessarily only in terms of where you go, but how you run that investigation. And that's it.
Yeah.
There was a second part of that question.
All that. A lot of control. I mean, it's a very small group. You know, it's a very intimate group of people make Destination Truth. You know, it's a really unconventional show. In terms of the structure of how it's made, it's very unconventional. Our production footprint is very small. You know, most shows, if you turn the camera, if you were able to reach through your TV and turn that camera around and see who's behind it, there'd be a whole mess of people that you never see.
That was the second part of my question.
There you go. I see psychic energy. That isn't the case. You know, it's really what you see is what you get. The only two people you probably don't see on Destination Truth, occasionally you see one in the role of translator, is we sometimes have what's called a fixer, which is a local producer. It's somebody that we work with in country that deals with translation issues, permitting, and things like that. That person is sometimes with us, sometimes not, but we don't really feature them very heavily on the show. And there's a field producer sometimes that moves ahead of us to a location, just to, if it's a difficult place to permit, if we're going to Angkor Wat, Cambodia or something, we need to make sure we have some permissions in place for that. But that's it. You know, other than that, it's this kind of scrappy show made by like 8 people. So in that sense, it's really unique, and in that sense, it's pretty democratic. You know, we all kind of have a voice as to what we're going to go shoot and where we're going to go and how we're going to film it. And so that's the great thing about it. It really is. And we hope that kind of comes through in the show, that you feel like you're kind of part of the group and not watching something that's kind of glossy.
It is nice to have a show that you look at and you don't see, oh, the network's making them do that.
Right.
So, thank you.
Sure.
Hi, I'm Michael.
Oh.
What's happening?
Thank you very much.
It's serious, also very funny, especially because you're a writer. Like the Dark episode with Titanic.
Yes.
But anyway, I'm curious to know, what was the best EVP evidence that you've seen? I have real interest in the life after death.
Yeah.
And I see the EVP sessions you do, and I was wondering, have had any EVP sessions that truly convince you that there's something to it?
I'm trying to think. Well, EVPs are interesting to me. I'm not to kind of go too deep down the rabbit hole of paranormal stuff, but you know, they're an amazing thing that I have a lot of questions about still. They undoubtedly seem to provide results. You often do these EVP sessions and you hear what sounds like disembodied voice. You're also amplifying something so much, and it's really, you're not in a controlled environment. You're out in the world. There's wind coming in through windows. There's people shuffling around, moving around. So there's a kind of control problem with it, right? It's a little difficult to know if you're really hearing something or if you think you're hearing something. Having said that, we have found over the last 5 years making Destination Truth, and I'm someone who really is like an open-minded skeptic. You know, I'm very much on the fence about all of those things. And we have heard some things that, to me, sound like speech. They sound like people talking, and they're unattributable to anybody, you know, in the room. I don't know what to do with that sometimes. Like, I don't know if that necessarily, you know, the problem with the paranormal is that there are no benchmarks for it. You know, in order for something to be scientific, you have to have control, you have to have repeatable results, and you have to have hypothesis and all of those boring things that come with science. So, you know, I don't know. I've heard those things, and they sometimes make chills go up my spine, and I swear it sounds like someone talking, but I think for me the jury is still out a little bit on what I'm actually hearing. Right. But we've had, you know, really interesting results. We just, in this last season, we had some very scary things in a village that we were in Fiji, this cannibal village we did an episode. We've had good EVPs, you know, I think every season in a few different places. So a lot of them are compelling to me, but I don't know necessarily if that means that they're definitively paranormal.
Well, keep looking.
Yeah, thank you.
Nice meeting you.
Nice meeting you too. This kneeling thing is very. No, it's like you're right. Nobody said do that, and everybody was just sort of doing that. It's nice. Boy. And now it's. I'm not saying you have to kneel. Vote for me. Never said that. Hi.
I am I'm very interested in your show and what you guys do on the show. And in the show, funny real hands-on stuff. What I have found interesting in that I kind of don't, understand most of it. So I'm going to put this in three kind of things.
Okay.
Most dangerous, most beautiful, and most interesting to you. Because I have a lot and I can't, it would be unfair.
Most dangerous place?
Most dangerous and overall, like place or injury that you've ever gotten. Most beautiful sites or places.
Okay.
Most interesting overall.
I would say that in terms of danger, I think we always feel most exposed on the show when we are in really intense rainforest environments. So like the Amazon, I would say, is a very dangerous place. Sailing to Antarctica is dangerous, hiking up in the Himalayas is dangerous, but when you're in the Amazon at night, and you're just walking around, you're sort of asking for it. It's like Avatar. It's like that planet. It's like Pandora. Every single thing is on the defense or the offense, and it's a very, it's a very active cycle of life thing that's happening in there, and things are hunting and being hunted all the time. So I think for us, having been in the Amazon, for me, those are the experiences where I felt the most like I'm totally out of control, because you can't see a lot of the things that can see you. There are snakes that are the size of your finger that can kill you, and
Spiders. I heard.
Yeah.
I watched this episode that there was this. I don't know if it was paranormal or just you were in the forest and there was this big watchtower kind of thing over, and Ryder climbed it, and then you climbed it, and you got bit by a spider.
yes, that's
Did you ever get results?
well, I didn't die. And that's the truth, by the way. If you're out in the middle of nowhere and you get bit by something, the paramedic is like, well, let's see what happens. Watch and wait situation. There's nothing you can do.
And Rex is just still calling about it.
That's Rex's big move. That's what happens. Yeah, the wildlife concerns are the scariest stuff on the show. We have been in jungles where there's panthers and tigers.
And the cheetahs crossing in front of them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
lions. Walking around the Serengeti, another, kind of not right thing to do. So I think that's the most dangerous. Wildlife in those really kind of rich wildlife areas can be the most dangerous stuff. I think in terms of the most beautiful thing we've seen on the show, it's tough.
Maybe, huh?
There are a lot. There really are a lot. I felt I was pretty flabbergasted by Antarctica. Every day, once we got there and we made the crossing, every minute on the deck of that boat, everyone in that group was at their mountain anchor. It is stunning down there. In terms of sort of historic sites that we've been lucky enough to go to, Angkor Wat in Cambodia, being at Machu Picchu in Peru, Great Wall.
My favorite was Pompeii.
Pompeii is an incredible place, and for us, there's something very special that happens sometimes on the show where I think that the moments where we feel the luckiest are these moments where I don't know how we've gotten permission to go into these World Heritage sites and these historic sites, and you have them all to yourself. And it's this happened to us this season. We went to Tikal. So Tikal is this. If you haven't been there, you don't know it. It's this enormous Mayan city in Guatemala. It's one of the largest Mayan cities, and it is the scale of it is insane. It's hundreds of pyramids and thousands of structures, and a lot of them unexcavated, just covered by jungle still. And you could just walk for miles, and you would come across ruins of temples and pyramids. And we there's a brief scene, I think, in the original Star Wars. It's used as a rebel base in Star Wars.
I heard about that.
But we were investigating there this season. We did a story there, and we went up to the top of one of the temples, and we were changing tapes or something. And for a minute, we said, well, let's just shut everything off, because when you're investigating, there's still the glow of the cameras and all these different things. So we said, let's just shut everything off for a second and sit at the top of this pyramid and take a beat. And we powered everything down so it was just pitch black. And you look out across the top of the rainforest, because you're above it. These pyramids kind of punch up through the top of the rainforest. look out and you can see just barely in the mist the tops of all these other pyramids just extending off in the distance that are also poking up out of the rainforest. And the jungle is so loud with howler monkeys, things killing other things, and it's, you know, of course, the best stars you've ever seen. You're far away from cities, and for a brief instant, and it's happened a couple of times in the show, you feel a little bit like this is exactly what this would have looked like when this city was up and running. You know, when thousands of years ago, this is what this view would have looked like, and you feel sort of transported for a moment, you know, back to that. And that's really breathtaking. That's really a connection you feel for just a brief instant with the past. It's really kind of overwhelming. And most interesting was the last thing?
Yeah.
I think for me, that's probably, I think our trip to Egypt for me was probably the most interesting thing we've done. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, we were fortunate enough to spend a couple of weeks in Egypt and really kind of delve into a lot of the sites in and around Cairo. And I think that for me was the most sort of educationally interesting. Yeah. Sure.
And thank you so much for keeping eye contact. Makes me
Oh,
definitely-
sure. Some people just stare down at the table. Next question.
Hi, Josh. I'm Nicole. I actually have two questions for you.
Okay.
In the show and in your travels outside of the show, you have probably eaten some really weird things. What is the weirdest thing you have ever eaten?
That's another one. It's like, I'll give you some highlights. You can choose. I don't know. There's a certain point where things are so gross, it's lateral. Like you can't. There's a point where it's bull penis, maggots, fried tarantulas. The egg. That's probably the worst because it's the one that I threw up. It's the one I couldn't get down. There's this egg. There's this thing in the Philippines called balut. Any Filipinos here who eat balut? Yeah. What's amazing is if there had been a Filipino person here, they would have been like, "Oh, it's great. I love it." I don't know how. I don't know how. It's an overdeveloped egg. So you take
fertilized egg.
What's that?
Egg is fertilized.
Right. That's
Egg
correct.
after 21 days and 19 days, they soft boil the egg and bury it in salt. The longer it stays in salt, the greater the you know, if you hear them call a 100-year-old egg, it's supposed to be the
Yes. And they think of it as an aphrodisiac. This is a delicacy, an aphrodisiac. When you open this egg, it's awful, right? When you open the top of this egg, there is most of an animal inside. I mean, there's a beak, and there's bones, and part of a brain, and I mean, it's like almost ready to be an animal. And it smells awful, and I got it to like almost the back of my like here. And then there was like a piece of beak or something. And then my body was just like, this is not happening. I just turned away from the camera when I vomited, but I couldn't get it down. I couldn't do it. That's probably the worst, you know. And the other thing is, with all the insecty things, you know, I always eat them thinking, maybe I'm missing something. Like maybe this is the one time when I'm going to be like, why aren't we eating crickets? It never pans out. You never eat a scorpion and then go, shit, I should have been eating this for you. They're all terrible, all of them. And then the only way half of them are even edible is you just have to fry them. It's like, you know, half those insect things, they just deep fry them to the point where you can eat them. But it's like you can deep fry a shoe at that point. So yeah, I'm gonna go with the